Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Reverend Sharpton, your current MSNBC co-worker, Joe Scarborough, is my former congressman. And when Joe Scarborough served in the Congress, he had quite a bit to say about your contribution to the national discussion. It was in the 106th Congress that Joe Scarborough filed House Concurrent Resolution 270 entitled Condemning the Racist and Anti-Semitic Views of the Reverend Al Sharpton. Mr. Scarborough's resolution began by saying, whereas the Reverend Al Sharpton has referred to members of the Jewish faith as blood-sucking Jews and Jew bastards. So my question to you is, does Mr. Scarborough's assertion that you said these things, is that true, or did you not say those things?
They are patently untrue. I never said that.
Okay.
Can I finish my answer?
No, it's actually my time, but you will be able to
Well, I thought you raised the question.
So the next question
Can I
relates
answer
to Mr.
the
Scarborough's
question?
second comment. He says, whereas the Reverend...
Since aspersions were cast on the witness will be permitted to answer.
No, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Aspersions weren't cast. I asked the witness if
You asked, was it true that I said that?
I can't reclaim my time, Mr. Chairman.
Witness, you will have your time. The witness will be permitted to answer.
You asked me, was that true? And the answer is no, that was not true. And as you know, Mr. Scarborough and I work very closely together. He comes to National Action Network conventions. I think he's a great guy, and we do each other's shows often.
Mr. Scarborough also said...
Excuse me. The gentleman who's the timekeeper will add 30 seconds to Mr. Gaetz's time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, parliamentary inquiry.
The gentleman will state his parliamentary inquiry.
Is it appropriate for a member of the body to personally attack a witness before the body? Or shall I say, can a congressman's words be taken down in the event that he casts aspersions on a witness?
We ask everyone to adhere to rules of decorum. The gentleman will proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joe Scarborough then wrote, whereas the Reverend Al Sharpton has referred to members of the Jewish faith as white interlopers and diamond merchants. Have you ever referred to members of the Jewish faith as white interlopers or diamond merchants?
No, sir. I referred to one in Harlem, an individual who I didn't even know was Jewish, as an interloper, and said I should never refer to his race. I said that I was against those that were using apartheid diamonds. And when I did a funeral in Crown Heights in '91, because we were boycotting Oppenheimer and those that were selling diamonds from apartheid South Africa. In the same sermon, I'm trying to, may I finish my answer, sir? Am I allowed to finish my answer?
I'm allowed to reclaim my time.
You asked a question, and I'm answering it.
Yeah, I got a few more.
Well, and I have a few more answers.
I can't wait.
Well, apparently you do, because you don't want me to answer.
No, I want to know.
So since you raised it, let me finish. I also talked about people snatching pocketbooks that are in the. I'm not filibustering anything. I'm answering your question.
Everyone will suspend, please.
Mr. Chairman, a parliamentary inquiry.
Everyone will suspend.
Parliamentary inquiry.
Gentlelady will state a parliamentary inquiry.
It will be in the form of an inquiry statement. Is it appropriate for a member to do a constant tirade of attacking the witness and then not allowing the witness to answer?
That is not, my personal opinion is that it's not proper, but that is not a proper parliamentary inquiry.
That's a statement to the gentleman.
Gentleman controls the time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Scarborough continued, whereas the Reverend Al Sharpton led a protest in the Crown Heights neighborhood and marched next to a protester with a sign that read, "The white man is the devil." Did you march next to a sign that said...
I have no recollection of that. I've marched in many things where there were signs that I did or did not agree with.
Scarborough
and I would say that if I was aware of that, I would have said that I would not want to have that sign.
Witness and not just have him continue to.
Well, then you shouldn't ask me a question if you don't want an answer.
I want to know if you said them. You could say yes or no. You said
no, I cannot answer, Mr. Chairman, on yes or no when he's asking me whether or not.
The witness is obviously disrupting the committee.
The witness, first of all, this has nothing to do with policing. Since he wants to make the subject Joe Scarborough and I, Then let me answer it. It had nothing.
Gentlemen.
Last I know, Joe Scarborough nor I are members of the police department or have anything to do with excessive force.
What is outrageous?
But I'm loving to engage this if he lets me finish.
What is outrageous is a matter of opinion. The gentleman controls the time.
Mr. Chairman, I asked that a minute be
The
restored.
gentleman controls the time.
So you're not going to restore my time?
No.
Joe Scarborough continues, the Reverend Al Sharpton's fierce demagoguery incited violence, riots, and murder in the Crown Heights section of Brooklyn. Do you agree or disagree with that statement?
As a matter of
Fire
fact, the
alarm-
New York State did a extensive study on the Crown Heights riots. Said I was not even there until after there was death of Yanko Roosevelt. I was not even called by the family until the day after.
Thank you, Mr.
We
Chairman.
had
I'm gonna
nothing to
reclaim
do
my
with it. When I
time.
came to
Mr.
Crown
Sharpton, have
Heights,
you ever
I led the
referred-
first nonviolent
Mr.
march
Chairman,
there.
Are you really? All right, fine. Mr. Sharpton, have you ever referred to African Americans who disagree with you as cocktail sip Negroes?
I have.
Have you ever referred to African Americans who
Mr.
disagree
Chairman,
with you?
I have a parliamentary inquiry.
The gentleman will state his parliamentary inquiry.
If a congressperson is persistently questioning a witness about a non-germane matter, is it proper?
I think the gentleman makes a fair point, but the rules provide members with very wide latitude.
Parliamentary inquiry.
Gentleman will state his parliamentary inquiry.
Does it violate any rules of decorum for a member to read specifically verbatim from a document filed in the congressional records as a resolution?
The gentleman from Florida may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Have you ever referred to African Americans who disagree with you as yellow and then the N-word?
I don't know that I've referred to people as names. I don't know if it's because they disagree with me, but I have said things about blacks and whites. I'm glad you made it clear that I don't only attack whites. Thank you for that.
Have you ever said that? Have you ever referred to African Americans who disagree with you as Negro militants?
I didn't know that was a derogatory statement.
I didn't say it was. Just ask if you used it.
I don't know. I don't recall.
Have you ever said, if the Jews want to get it on, tell them to pin their yarmulkes back and come over to my house?
No, there was a man named Mordecai Levy who had been charged with some terrorist acts who threatened to march on me and several other activists in New Jersey, and he said he was going to come deal with my hairstyle. And I'm referring to his hairstyle. I said for him to pin it and come on. I was not talking about all Jews.
Well, you
no.
said those words.
No, I said about Mordecai Levy.
Have you said, I'm in hell already, I'm in Israel?
Yeah, because I had been threatened that if I came over to deal
one more
with
question.
no, well,
words,
first of all,
I believe in
I believe that you can deal with the decorum of the Congress, but you cannot disrespect a witness. You cannot ask a question and tell the witness he can't answer the
Witness
question.
is permitted to answer a question.
You're welcome to answer them. How about
Well,
I answer
then let
this
me
last
answer,
one?
sir.
Okay. Have
Let
you
me
ever
answer,
said the words,
because
I
I'm
believe in
enjoying this.
offing the
Mr. Chairman,
I think that
You ever said that?
I think that you have
You're at a
deliberately.
committee about policing.
Don't
Have you
get
ever
upset.
said,
Calm
I
down.
am
Calm down.
upset.
You're yelling. You're yelling. You're yelling. Calm down. I think
Talk
that
about offing.
I'm trying to answer your last question.
Gentleman will be permitted, the time of the gentleman has expired. The witness may answer the
The
question.
one about offing the pigs. Answer that one.
The witness may answer the question. The time of the gentleman has expired. The witness may answer the question.
The question that he raised, what I was saying was clearly that I have disagreed with blacks and whites. I've used language graphically sometime to do so, some of which I've grown beyond, but none of which shows anything other than I am an equal opportunity attacker. And I'm glad that Joe Scarborough and I both are equal opportunity attackers that now work together.
Mr. Chairman, I ask to be recognized for unanimous consent request.
The gentleman will state his unanimous consent request.
Mr. Chairman, I seek unanimous consent to introduce the Scarborough resolution as a part of the committee's permanent record.
I object. Who's next? The gentleman from Georgia is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I have a motion.
Now that
The gentleman from Georgia is recognized.
I thank the gentleman for yielding, and I was reviewing your prior answer, Reverend Sharpton. You are cited in a Washington Examiner piece, July 30th, 2019, as having said, if the Jews want to get it on, tell them to pin their yarmulkes back and come over to my house. And in your response to my question, you said you were just referring to one person. So here is my very limited question for you, Reverend. Were you misquoted in this story when you say the Jews and them, referring to a plural group of people rather than one person you seem to have a grievance with?
Well, am I allowed to answer? My name is Sharpton, not Lewandowski. I will answer the question if I'm allowed.
Please.
We know your name, sir. Go ahead and answer.
And you then know that I'm going to answer. I was referring to an incident and a threat to come to my home by Mordecai Levy and to the homes of, I believe, Reverend Daughtry and others. How the examiner, I think you said, or someone else wrote, I'm not looking at it, so I do not know whether they misquoted me or not. I do know what I said and who I was referring to.
Well, did you say them?
I just said that I'm not looking at the statement. I do not.
I just
You're talking about a situation that happened in 1991. If I said them, the, or those, I don't know. I know that incident and I know what I was referring to. And a man threatening to come to our home who had that kind of criminal record. And I had 2 young children, I think under 5 years old.
Thank you. I appreciate the answer.
Again, I'm not Lewandowski. Let me
No,
talk. I'll
if you
talk.
don't control
I'll
the time,
talk. I'll
so
testify
as will
before this
I.
committee.
So is it your belief that
If I
bigoted
said
things
them or
said in
not, would that help or
1991
hurt excessive force of policing?
Well, I think it's pretty significant when someone wants to come and preach to us.
Mr.
about
Chairman, point
raising
of
the federal
parliamentary
standard,
inquiry.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
Point
Chairman.
of parliamentary inquiry.
Who
Point of
asked
parliamentary
this?
inquiry.
Someone else did first. The gentleman will state his point of
I don't believe you talk about the people that come
Gentlemen,
before you.
The gentleman will suspend. The gentleman will state his point of parliamentary inquiry.
Mr. Chairman, when a witness is asked a question in a hearing before this Judiciary Committee, do our rules provide that the witness is permitted to answer the question?
The witness is permitted to answer the question.
I have a parliamentary.
But the member controls the time.
Parliamentary inquiry.
Hold on. The member controls the time. If the member judges that the question is answered to his satisfaction, he may go on to another question. The
Parliamentary
gentlelady will state
inquiry.
her point of parliamentary inquiry.
When a witness is attempting to answer the question, is it the rules of this committee that the witness be allowed to answer the question? And is it also in the decorum of this committee to not badger the witness if the witness is attempting to answer the question?
The member, well, there are 2 answers. The member controls the time. If the member thinks that the question has been answered to his satisfaction, he may cut off the answer and go to a further question. However, it is not permitted to badger a witness. We do afford members considerable latitude, but badgering witnesses is inappropriate, and our committee should not conduct itself in that manner. It's expected that all parties to these proceedings comport themselves with decorum and professionalism, and at all times in a manner that reflects creditably on the House of Representatives. House rules require the chair to maintain order and decorum, and I will do so. The gentleman controls the time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I ain't having no march. I believe in fighting. Well, fight then. Ain't nobody holding you. I'll off the man. We'll off him. Plenty of crackers walking around here tonight. Did you say those words?
I do not recall saying I will not march. I think for the last 40 years I've marched. I think that you're referring to, and I'm not sure, but I think you're referring to when I was dealing with some people that said that they don't want to march and that they're going to off people. And I told them there are plenty of people walking around that they called a name. They're not offing anybody because I felt that they were just trying to disrupt our asking people to march. So in the context of I was quoting as I said the reference made about I don't want to march.
And astrology and mathematics before Socrates and them Greek homos ever got around to it. Did you say that, Mr. Sharpton?
I talked about African history, and I talked about how we had dealt with astrology as well as mathematics and philosophy and religion in Africa.
But you referred to people as Greek homos, didn't you?
I do not recall how I referred to anyone. And you'd have to cite.
Do you think that your bigoted statements in 1991 are excusable just because they were in 1991?
I think that any statement that I've made that was wrong, I have clearly said that we should not make bigoted statements, including me. I also think that to
Have you made
distort,
bigoted statements?
I think
Have you
that
made bigoted
also
statements,
to
Reverend?
distort.
Have you
You
made
can,
bigoted
you
Will
can
the
ask,
gentleman yield?
you can
Point of
ask
order.
all the questions
Gentleman
you
yield.
want, but I'm going to
I wanna
answer
know
the
if you
question.
Will the gentleman
have made
yield?
statements. When you call Greek homos, when you talk about white crackers, those are bigoted statements.
I think I made it clear that I was quoting what somebody said.
No, you
Yelling
announced what
and
you
getting
said.
upset is beneath your office. You
Gaetz,
should
will
calm down.
suspend. The gentleman will state his point of order.
Once again, Mr. Chairman, after a sustained attack on the character of a witness that has been called by people on this panel, and that panel then attacks that witness in a sustained, deliberate manner, which is non-germane to the subject at hand, is it appropriate for a member to ask that the offending member's words be taken down?
It is not under the rules appropriate. The time is the gentleman's.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would note these are highly relevant to the issues that we're facing. Reverend Sharpton has come before the House Judiciary Committee
Excuse me, the clock should be running.
as a purported expert on policing, and yet his bigoted statements undermine the bipartisan work we should be doing to ensure that all citizens are able to come together and have safe communities.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. How is this
Gentleman will state his
germane?
point of order.
How is this line of inquiry germane? And if it's not germane, is it appropriate?
To the point, may I speak to the point?
He cited germane.
Well, is there such a rule? I don't think we should allow our, Mr. Chairman, we have had a series, we've had a witness who came before us 2 days ago, Mr. Lewandowski, who totally contemptuously dealt with this panel. And now we have a reverse of that. We have one of our members doing the same thing to a witness who we have called. I don't think it is within our best practices to allow our process to get down to the level that we have now sunk. And I'm asking the chairman to, in the wise use of discretion, to rule that the gentleman from Florida's line of inquiry with this specific witness, who he's trying to attack his characters, no question about that, but
I'm reading his own words back.
doing it in a
Gentleman
sustained
has the
way,
time, not you.
and
He
doing
does? I have the time, Mr. Chairman.
and not
No, you do
having
not.
uttered
What
a
is it?
single
Regular order. Is this a point of order? What is
Point of order, Mr. Gaetz. You don't have the floor.
The gentleman is being heard on the point of order.
not
Will I be
having-
heard on the point of order?
The
Not
gentleman
having-
is being heard on the point of order.
not having uttered a single word of relevance to the issue at hand, is it appropriate for this committee to allow the misuse of this platform to attack the character of a witness? I mean, this is taking our process down to a level that we should never allow it to descend to. And I'm objecting to us wallowing in the mud down here with these comments. I mean, it's not whether or not it's true or false, it's the fact that it's non-germane.
To the point?
The chair will rule on the point. The chair will rule on the point of order. Although the gentleman's comments may be obnoxious, although they may
I object to that. Point of order. That is an improper characterization of
the
the
gentleman's
member of the
comments
committee.
may be characterized as whatever you want to characterize them as.
I have a point of
Gentlemen-
order that your words be taken down and referred to.
Oh, woe is me.
Gentleman-
I pick a fight
gentleman
and now
has
I need
wide-
help.
Under the rules, the gentleman has wide latitude, both on the question of germaneness and on the language that he uses. And unfortunately, under the rules, I cannot overrule him. The gentleman will proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You sold your life story, Mr. Sharpton, to your own charity How much money did your charity pay you for the rights to tell your story?
Parliamentary inquiry. Mr. Chairman, this is an outrage, and the question is whether you can impugn the motives and or insult or badger the witness or cost or characterize his presence at this table.
The gentlelady was not recognized.
Well, I have a parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Chairman.
The gentlelady was not recognized. All right. Stop the clock. Just stop. All right, you'll state the parliamentary inquiry.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the gentleman from Georgia made a point about a witness that we had just 2 days ago, which the impugning of the motive, the character destruction was not in the course of our questioning. What I say to our good friend from Florida, that you are now not only not being germane, but you are pointedly attacking the character, and in addition, bringing up information.
It is not.
Well, let me just finish. Bringing up information, it's an inquiry. Bringing up information that is a character destroying. And the question is, in the questioning of a witness, can you use items that refer to the witness's character and demeaning the witness's character? Is that an appropriate line of questioning?
Whether it is an appropriate line of questioning is not relevant. But with respect to the parliamentary inquiry, questioning a witness's character and motives, which may go to ascertaining the credibility to give to the testimony, we have always given very wide latitude, and the answer has to be that I cannot object to that. The gentleman will proceed.
How much money did your charity pay you personally, for the right to tell your life story?
My charity owed a certain amount of money to me and asked, could they use that money to have the right to sell any rights to my life, be it documentary, one-man play, or other items that they have already began reaping dividends. They would have had to pay me the same sum anyway because it was owed to me.
Was that sum
so
over $500,000?
The answer, can I finish?
Was it over $500,000?
Can I finish? Whatever the
More
sum
or less
was,
than $500,000
the sum, whatever the sum.
Gave you to tell your life story, because I think most people would see that as
charity
a fraud.
again,
Fraud.
charity again owed me a certain amount of money that they would have had to pay anyway, and they were. I agreed to allow them,
or less than $500,000 that his charity paid him for his life
Gentleman's
story.
time.
I allowed them to use those funds to have my
was it
right.
more than $500,000?
Gentleman will suspend. His time has expired. The gentleman from New York is recognized.